The War of 1812 was a pivotal conflict between the United States and Great Britain, lasting from June 1812 to February 1815. It emerged from a web of disputes, including trade restrictions imposed by Britain, the impressment of American sailors into the British Royal Navy, and U.S. territorial ambitions aimed at expanding into Canada and securing western frontiers. The conflict was marked by fierce battles, shifting alliances, and significant political and social consequences that reshaped North America's future. Its effects would ripple through decades of history, influencing national boundaries, indigenous relations, and even modern national identities. The war also played a crucial role in establishing the United States as a sovereign nation willing to defend its interests on the global stage. The origins of the war were rooted in several pressing international issues. Britain's naval blockade against Napoleonic France severely disrupted American trade, causing significant economic distress. American ships faced frequent seizures, and goods were often confiscated, provoking outrage across the young republic. The British practice of impressing thousands of American sailors into the Royal Navy, claiming they were British deserters, further inflamed American public opinion. For many, this was viewed as a direct affront to U.S. sovereignty and national pride. The economic strain was compounded by widespread resentment over British interference in U.S. shipping routes. American merchants suffered financial losses due to blocked ports and confiscated goods. Additionally, the British alliance with various Native American tribes on the U.S. frontier heightened fears of coordinated attacks against American settlements. This alliance, driven by British promises of support for indigenous land rights, further stoked American calls for war. Simultaneously, U.S. expansionist ambitions grew as settlers pushed westward into Native American lands. This expansion was fiercely opposed by indigenous tribes, many of whom sought support from Britain to resist American encroachment. U.S. politicians, known as war hawks, including Henry Clay and John C. Calhoun, argued that war would secure American prestige, defend the nation's honor, and potentially add British-held Canada to the United States. Rising nationalistic fervor and a desire for territorial expansion added further pressure on President James Madison's administration, ultimately leading to the declaration of war on June 18, 1812. The war began with high American hopes of conquering British Canada, but early campaigns ended in failure. U.S. forces launched several unsuccessful invasions, including a humiliating surrender at Fort Detroit under General William Hull. American attempts to seize Canadian territory faltered due to poor planning, disorganized leadership, and stiff British-Canadian resistance, led by General Isaac Brock and his Native American ally, Tecumseh. The British and their indigenous allies used superior knowledge of the rugged terrain to thwart multiple American offensives, solidifying their control over key regions. Despite these setbacks, American forces demonstrated moments of determination and resilience, particularly in repelling British advances into U.S. territories along the Great Lakes. The struggles along the Canadian-American border would shape much of the war's military campaigns. The failed American invasions exposed serious shortcomings in the U.S. military infrastructure. Supply chains were stretched thin, and communication across the vast frontier was slow and unreliable. Many of the American militias were poorly trained and ill-equipped, while British forces benefited from disciplined regular troops supported by seasoned indigenous warriors familiar with the terrain. While U.S. ground campaigns struggled, the U.S. Navy earned critical victories. The USS Constitution, captained by Isaac Hull, defeated HMS Guerriere, earning the nickname Old Ironsides. The USS United States, commanded by Stephen Decatur, and other American frigates captured numerous British vessels, lifting American morale and disrupting British supply lines. Additionally, privateers played a crucial role by attacking British shipping, weakening their global influence. The successful use of privateers authorized civilian ships attacking enemy vessels, allowed the U.S. to sustain pressure on British commerce, seizing valuable goods and disrupting vital supply routes. These successes underscored the growing competence of the young U.S. Navy and helped secure its reputation as a formidable maritime power. Naval engagements also demonstrated that Britain, though a global naval superpower, could not maintain total dominance in North American waters. The victories at sea gave Americans a sense of national pride and demonstrated the effectiveness of a professional navy. American shipyards along the eastern seaboard worked tirelessly to produce new ships, fueling the growth of U.S. naval capabilities. Despite British naval superiority on a global scale, these naval skirmishes reshaped international perceptions of the fledgling American Navy. By 1814, British forces, emboldened after defeating Napoleon in Europe, intensified their campaigns. They launched a major offensive that resulted in the capture and burning of Washington, D.C., including the White House and the Capitol. President James Madison and his government were forced to flee, retreating into rural Virginia. However, the British advance was halted at Baltimore, where the successful defense of Fort McHenry inspired Francis Scott Key to pen the poem that became the Star-Spangled Banner. This defense demonstrated American resilience and revived national morale despite the devastation in the nation's capital. The battle became a symbol of American determination to defend its independence, despite facing one of the world's most powerful military forces. Key's verses would later be set to music and become the U.S. national anthem. The British campaign in the Chesapeake Bay region highlighted the vulnerability of the American coastline, but also revealed the resilience of local militias. American cities quickly improved their coastal defenses, investing in fortifications that would serve them for decades to come. In January 1815, General Andrew Jackson led U.S. forces to a stunning victory at the Battle of New Orleans. Despite the Treaty of Ghent being signed weeks earlier, news of the peace had not reached North America. Jackson's triumph cemented his status as a national hero and symbolized American resilience and military strength. His army, composed of regulars, militia, pirates, and even freed African Americans, decisively defeated the British, who suffered catastrophic losses. The British attack, marked by miscommunication and underestimation of American defenses, failed spectacularly. The battle became a defining moment of American nationalism and myth-making in U.S. history, celebrated As a David versus Goliath victory, Jackson's success also boosted American morale and ensured his political rise, eventually leading to his presidency. The war featured numerous influential figures on both sides. U.S. President James Madison played a central role in guiding the nation through the conflict, navigating internal divisions and international crises. British General Isaac Brock led early successful defenses in Canada, but was killed at the Battle of Queenston Heights, becoming a celebrated Canadian hero whose leadership continues to be honored in Canadian history. Shawnee leader Tecumseh allied with the British in a bid to form a Native American confederation, but was killed at the Battle of the Thames, dealing a devastating blow to Indigenous resistance. His death signaled the collapse of a unified Native American front against U.S. expansion. His vision of a united Indigenous confederation remains a powerful historical legacy. General Andrew Jackson's leadership at New Orleans ensured his rise to national prominence and eventual presidency. His aggressive military style and uncompromising defense strategy during the war reshaped American military policy in the following decades. The Treaty of Ghent, signed in December 1814, officially ended the war, restoring pre-war boundaries, but leaving many underlying issues unresolved. Though neither side achieved a decisive victory, the war significantly reshaped the geopolitical landscape of North America. For the United States, it fostered a renewed sense of national identity, military development, and economic self-sufficiency, as industrial growth accelerated due to disrupted trade with Europe. Native American tribes suffered the most, as their British allies abandoned them following the war. Tribal lands were ceded at an alarming rate, leading to decades of displacement and hardship. The collapse of Tecumseh's confederation left many Native American nations vulnerable to U.S. expansion, resulting in continuous territorial losses throughout the 19th century.